What's going on?
I am tired.
What have you been doing? You've been sleeping? You've been not sleeping? What's happening here?
I was up late, I think, a little bit, and then especially since I saw some sort of pixel art and it reminded me of the video game I wanted to make, and it made me also realize that it's been a long time since I worked on that because 2023 was a long time ago now, especially the beginning of 2023.
Yeah, it's been a little bit. Been a little bit. So what are we talking about today? What we got?
Don't have any particular topics in mind. Probably just a good catch up day, and also probably nerding out about stuff always. And I have been scrolling on Xiaohongshu, which has been really interesting, especially since the TikTok ban. And that's also a weird situation too.
But the band is off now, isn't it?
Yeah, but the app is not the same, Doc.
I heard something about the algorithm is jacked up or something.
The algorithm's jacked up, and there's a lot of censorship. So, like, if you say anything bad about Trump, you get like deleted your comment, or your video doesn't get pushed at all. You get shadow banned. And if you say anything bad about like Biden or Kamala, you're fine. And it's
That's very
weird
weird.
because if you watched Avatar: The Last Airbender,
Yeah.
so there's a meme going around where there's no war in Ba Sing Se, and that's what it feels like on the app. So when you're scrolling through and you have this like uncanny valley feeling, that's what it feels like. And so I'm like, oh well, I'm gonna stay on Red Note now, Zhangshu,
That's very
because
interesting.
it's a much better app, anyways.
That's very interesting. Huh. This is going to be interesting what happens coming up along the band. I think it won't last. I'm concerned because I'm using CapCut and no one, I think those voices are not as loud.
Yeah,
But this also talks about being tool agnostic anyway with things like this, because if you understand a base level of using any platform, these things might be an inconvenience, but it's not going to cripple you as a creator. And this is unfortunately a lesson that a lot of creators are now going through for the first time. But if you're familiar with any other platform, Vine, MySpace,
R.I.P. I was on Vine.
see? So it just goes from there. Also, too, maybe later in the conversation, the 12-week year, very interesting. I've been doing some things with that. So, yeah, wherever you want to take it, man, I am ready for you.
So first and foremost, I heard that Meta's coming out with a CapCut competitor called like Edits or something like that. And
Yeah.
I mean, here's the other thing too. I think is hilarious since Meta was one of the major reasons why TikTok was banned. They lobbied a lot of politicians, and mind you, this is not a political show. We're not getting into any of that per se, but it's
Yeah.
a matter of like really interesting animosity from the users because people were not happy with Zuck and Meta, and everyone thought like, oh, TikTok's gone, so we're gonna go to Reels or even YouTube Shorts, and everybody collectively on both sides of the line were like, no, Reels sucks. Reels algorithm is just complete garbage compared to TikTok's, at least the old TikTok. And so everyone literally went and downloaded Red Note. And
Oh, yeah.
I think that mass uh fu to whoever was just a very funny thing to witness and be part of. And again, tool agnostic is really important because I've been preaching it, and I know you've been preaching it. Like we've been screaming from the top of the tower, like, hey, do not put all your eggs in one basket. And that's why I post all my clips to Pinterest, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels. I'm going to be posting to LinkedIn and Facebook Reels at some point. It's like don't put all your eggs in one place.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, we'll see how it goes and what different creators, but even if you're off a week, if you're a creator that's making just not, I'm not saying like the top 1%, if you're just making it as a creator, this can really mess up your business with TikTok already. So I really think understanding the different things you could be doing, the different products that you could be releasing, this is the perfect time to really
Yep.
understand having your home base, driving traffic to a newsletter or some area where you can capture either their phone number to do text messages or emails, which I feel like even better. Some people
Yep.
don't respect emails or they think it's outdated, but you're still getting email notifications from Amazon. You're still using emails for all of your daily essentials.
Mm-hmm.
Still highly valuable. And social media platforms, they'll come and go. I think YouTube, because it's structured so much as a mechanism for people to learn, I think YouTube is still one of the most stable things, but algorithms can change, their policies can change, terms of service. So own your own space.
Yeah, own your own space, and I mean, even just making a Substack would be a good idea. So you could have a website and a newsletter. I, fun fact, I actually got my mom into TikTok, and she likes to yap and like do a lot of content, especially finding cool music audios and stuff like that. And so she's actually grown past more than what I have, and I've been on there for 7 years, and I'm happy for her because it's a place for her to like express herself. And she's become like a short form content creator, and she did a decent amount of lives too. And now a lot of creators aren't able to go live now that TikTok is back, and so that's kind of interesting, especially if you made your money off of that. That's an interesting change.
Is what is it? The
I,
feature you can't do it?
I think it's just kind of still in its resetting process, I guess. I don't know. Some features are just not ready yet. I've seen some lives on there, but I wonder if it's like also, I wonder if they're like vetting like the personality of the person too. Like I feel like there's more censorship on TikTok than on Red Note, and Red Note is a fully Chinese app, if that makes sense.
Interesting.
And there
Interesting.
is a lot of censorship on there. Like you can't say anything about the government or something like that. Like you can't do anything too crazy like that. But like other than that, there's really not much censorship on there.
Well,
It's
we're gonna
just
have to
weird.
go back to Rumble again, I guess.
Who was ever really on Rumble?
I don't know. There's maybe Aiden Ross. I don't know
Maybe
who's
like
on.
8 people. You know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's interesting because I don't want to lose TikTok after 7 years, but I kind of said my goodbye, and I think a lot of other creators feel the same way. They said their goodbyes last week, and now it's back, sure, and I still have my automation set up to send to TikTok, and I'm not going to turn it off, but I'm not going to make any active effort in it anymore. And
Yeah.
YouTube's definitely the focus. Also, kind of updating on the Blitz. I'm still working on the blog post and newsletter posts, but I've made some pretty good progress. I think I'm probably around 30 blog posts out of 120 and around 40 well, not 40, but like around 30 newsletter posts too scheduled out ahead or so. I have everything scheduled out until like February for the blog posts, like 10th I think it was, and then March, the end of March essentially, for the weekly newsletter. So I just need to keep working on the newsletter for the rest of the year. Once I get that rest of the year, that whole sprint is done. I'm almost done with the podcast sprint too. So thanks for coming
Good.
on there. I needed you on there, and I need to finish a few more episodes. I was almost thinking I should just end it at 36, but I have that rule about the 42, so I don't know.
Well, see what happens. Oh,
Yeah,
42 is great. I love it.
yeah.
Well, that's cool. That's good. I love to hear it. I love to hear it.
What about you? Have you done any more shorts? Have you done any more endeavors for
Well,
YouTube?
that's because you don't watch my channel, so you wouldn't know. But
I see your live streams pop up on my feed.
yeah, so okay. The simple answer is
I went
yes.
into your video to like it. Okay.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate you. In
No, you don't.
general, I could. Uh, so basically, I have taken your advice. I am doing shorts, but I am doing very specific shorts with versus videos only right now. And what I've discovered is a lot of the shorts that are under 1 minute are doing really well. A little bit over a minute, I'm seeing a major drop off.
Yeah.
In general, let's see what we got here. So I put out, since the last time we talked, we put out 5 shorts. I'm going to schedule out another 10 for the next, all weekdays for the next 2 weeks. So I have 800 views and 200, 100, 274. And they're all versus videos. They're all versus videos. It's interesting. We'll see what's going on. The volume, because of AI agents, are pretty, you know, they're growing, so that's interesting. I stopped with my vidIQ
Oh, okay. You were
coaching.
talking about that. Yeah.
So we're doing good. I'm going to be releasing some videos with Jay Klaus and Roberto Blake in the next couple of weeks and things like that. That's more, I'd say, like anchor interview content. I don't see huge numbers, just to show that as an example to get other people on the show.
Yeah.
And then we're going to do some more videos. The live streams have been doing pretty good.
That's
Just
good.
building and doing that. And so I've got to go back and recut a couple live ones to make it. And yeah, so I'm building the same app 7 times with with different AI agents. That one popped a little bit for my numbers anyway. So I'm gonna cut that down. It's a 3.5 hour live stream and cut it down from there. So we got some things. But the 12-week year has really impacted the way I'm thinking about this kind of stuff. And yeah, this is good.
We'll get into the 12-week year a little bit later. In the last 5 days, you said you posted like 5 shorts. In the last 5 days, I posted 27 shorts.
Yeah. So,
But the thing is, I'm not that excessive. Honestly, I'm not doing the whole 10
I didn't
per day
say
like
you were excessive. You said
have in the
that.
past. You have in the past. You have in the past.
That's a conscience matter right there.
You have in the past. No, but the thing is, Doc, I'm just saying, all that's repurposed, right? All of it is just from my interviews.
No. Oh, but yours is.
Minus. And it's easy to create. You have to still pick out the good ones and filter out the ones that are not interesting. But I think that if you were to do that with your live streams, you would get 10 times as much clips and you would get 2 times as much progress, if not 3 times.
We're going to look into it.
I'm just glad you're doing shorts in general, but you say you're going to look into it, but that's the way you're like to dismiss things. You're like, I'll look into it.
To be fair, did I not do this standard that you told me to do? I even did the format that you wanted me to do. I'm just a little bit more cautious and take my time with shorts. That's all. I'm getting there.
Are you cross-posting them at all?
Not yet. I think
Twitter's
I should.
Talking about. Oh, I made a video yesterday. I should mention this on this channel where it was the meta of short form video, because the State of the Union, if you will, because there's a lot going on right now. And while Red Note is cool, there's no way to schedule things out to it yet, and so that's kind of hard. TikTok is in flux, and it was banned, and so people, like you said, put all their eggs in one basket, and they're kind of screwed. And then everyone is actually actively boycotting Instagram and Facebook. So people were actually going in and deleting their Facebook accounts.
Oh, wow.
And I forgot to mention that in the video, actually. So people are like really upset with Facebook and Meta. And so people are I actually deleted all the Meta apps off my phone. I can't delete my accounts. I'm a creator, but I still went in and prevented myself from going into these apps hardly at all. And what was I going to say? I think that there is a couple new platforms coming out of the woodwork that are really interesting. There's one called Neptune, which I'm not sure about, but then Twitter announced, I'm not sure if you saw my retweet on my profile, but Twitter announced a video feed like Shorts. And then there's also Blue Sky. Also, I need you to talk for a second because my voice is going.
Yeah, so I saw that about Twitter. They announced that they're going to do video or video feed. I looked at it on desktop. I couldn't see it, but then I looked at it on the tab with mobile, and it's in a weird spot. So I saw in the preview video that it was going to be at the bottom of the app, like where you were going to try. I don't see that. For me, I have to go to the home. No, I have to go to the icon, my home icon, actually my profile icon. Then you can see profile, premium, then video, then bookmarks. So it's on the side. If you,
I only see premium lists and bookmarks in that tab, so that's interesting. You must have it before I do.
But also too, I'm paying for it. So
I am premium member, I think, because my uncle had helped me with that. So I don't know.
I see it as a video feed. I don't see it as access for me to post videos. I don't think.
I feel like
unless you post it normally.
I think that's what it is. They don't really specify that very well. And I've always worried about spamming my feed with videos on Twitter. Same with LinkedIn, which is why on LinkedIn, I don't mind posting as much as I freaking want on the professional page, but on my personal page, I'm going to be a little bit more like you and be a little bit more picky about it. And so, but I feel like Twitter's kind of in the middle where it's like you can't post too much written content, but I feel like you can post too many short form video content. I'm honestly more excited about the Blue Sky. They're getting that app protocol, so they're going to try to get the video feed on that platform.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, no, I think Blue Sky is a great alternative. I think
Twitter's gone downhill.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I'm only on yes. So I will acknowledge that, yes. But I only look at Twitter for two different reasons. Live events for basketball, so NBA, and everyone in no code and crypto that are really active are still on the platform, and they're really accessible. So if I need to talk to someone, I'm connected to enough people that either and I'm paying for it, so I can get in the DMs really easily, I feel. And so I view it as a vehicle for work. It is by far, I had to mute a lot of things.
Yeah,
And
same.
also I have bookmarks and I'm only following certain things, and I'm very, very siloed off. So I understand a lot of people are like, man, I saw X, Y, and Z. I'm like, yeah, that's not even in my feed. But
Yeah.
I can see it getting out of hand pretty quickly.
My roommate actually has like a particular extension that blocks he doesn't like the For You page for whatever reason.
Huh.
And I actually can't stand the following tab. Every time I go on there, I feel bored. I don't really get much out of it, which is weird because I love the people I'm following, but a lot of the time they're not really posting. And so, like, the For
Yeah.
You tab actually has a decent amount of stuff for me. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm looking at it right now. Let's see. For you. How do I use this?
There's just a tab at the top For You or following.
Yeah. I just do for you only.
Yeah. And I sometimes go over to following and then I forget to switch it back because it doesn't switch back automatically. And then I'm like, why is my Twitter feed sucking today and tomorrow? And it's because I'm on the following tab.
Yeah.
Sorry, people.
No, I use that. I'm looking at this now that you say it. Yeah, I don't do following. And then I had a couple other designated sections like emerging tech,
Yeah.
build in
I have one for
public.
Obsidian.
Yeah. So, and those are okay. I still think
Yeah, I don't go to
the for
communities either.
you. Yeah,
Yeah.
for you is still pretty much my go-to.
I will say, I mean, prior to TikTok ban, that's what I actually did on TikTok too. I never really went on the following tab because it was always the same like three people over and over again, despite the fact I was following a couple thousand people. And it was probably because people like me who post a lot. And so I always stuck to the For You tab on there too. Also, has your YouTube algorithm been sucking? Because I have not been getting any good videos to watch on there at all.
No, my YouTube one's been pretty good. I'm doing a tactic where I'm just in incognito and I'm just spending time on just trends and looking at a fresh like feed and everything just for
Mhm.
ideas. But in general, I haven't seen anything out of the ordinary. It's pretty much
Well, just
straightforward for me.
it's just like all music for me, and I'm like I like to listen to music
See,
sometimes, but like it's not. But like literally, the 90% of the screen would be music, and I'm like I want gaming, technology, and computers, and portable monitors, and portable
I
handhelds. Like I don't know why it's not showing me all the stuff that
That
I.
is so funny. You know what? Actually, I was talking to my wife. We were comparing our YouTube shorts because she's like, "Man, I keep getting the same songs, and it's everything about Arcane and everything." And I looked at it, and I was like, "Our shorts are nothing alike. I don't get one music. I don't have any music in any of the videos. It is all tutorials. It is every single thing. I'm like, I don't get." So we're just comparing.
I
It's
get anime
interesting.
edits in my shorts. I think a
Really?
lot of the time.
I get.
I don't even watch anime
That
much.
is hilarious. No, no. I mean, I can tell you. I mean, nothing really changes except like Nate
Or
shots on
or
live
changes.
constantly, and everything going on with, um, let's see, um, yeah, basketball stuff, and now what I'm looking at for Lovable and a few other things, and TikTok. No, excuse me, Twitch
Mhm.
drama stuff like that.
Before we get into the 12-week year, I want to mention a little bit about the Obsidian stuff because have you been trying it out much since you played with it?
Tell me more. I have been using it, but last
Okay.
night's stream, I built out an app because I could just move faster than going in Obsidian. Tell me more. What do you mean?
Going in Obsidian to build an app?
Yeah. So I'll talk about it later. Yeah, go ahead. What
Okay.
do you want to talk about?
So my PIOS system is based on the yearly, quarterly, monthly, weekly, and daily. And over the years, I've been trying to get myself to get more and more active with daily notes. And while it's been hit or miss, and most of the time miss, when I do daily notes, it seems to help. Especially every once in a while, I'll do like an anchor daily note where I put my to do list. And there's probably some plugins to make it easier, so it would transfer over to the next day automatically. But what I just do is I go to the first of the month each time. Maybe I could just put that in the monthly note. I don't know, but I'm just like, hey, I should probably put it in the monthly note. Actually, now that I think about it, like, hey, these are the stuff I want to get done this month, and so I'm just going back to that note and going back to it. So I've been doing that for the Blitz, for example, But then weekly notes is something I still need to work towards, but it's like planning out your week ahead. And I think that's very helpful for a lot of people. And that's kind of like a lot of people have the daily and weekly in mind. But once you start getting bigger, like quarterly and yearly, that's where it starts getting a little bit more macro and people kind of don't understand that. And so last couple weeks ago, I started doing my yearly note and my quarterly note. And especially with the yearly note, I was planning out my quarters ahead. And I think I told you a couple weeks ago or a week ago that like I don't have any plans for after the first quarter. And
Mm.
I didn't make that realization until I had done that note, until I had like sat down and wrote out what happened last year, pretty in depth too, mind you. And then I had the preview. So there's just review and preview. And the preview is like, hey, what am I predicting that I'm going to work on this year? And like the last 2 years, I had a pretty good like plan for what's going to happen the next year. And it was weird how I just didn't have that this year. I'm like, I don't know how long it's going to take me to move to Austin. I am trying to save up, but I really do want to do that as soon as possible. So it's just interesting to think about how, like, in a quarter, which 12 weeks, you could get a lot done. And I'm just trying to figure out how to do that.
I love it. I love it. I think that sounds right. Yeah. How do you
And so if
feel
you
with
wanted,
it?
if you wanted to implement the 12-week year, that's where the quarterly layer would come into place. I feel like it's great. I feel like I'm finally like getting alongside what I've been talking about for a long time.
Yeah. I so what would I say about that? Yeah, I might do that at the quarterly. Yeah, that's why I'm really liking the 12-week year. I've always been good, I feel like, with sprints, but this time I think I'm doing even this is even more. This is even more. So um no, I like it. Yeah, no, I think Obsidian is interesting for it's just a different routine. I always got pinged in Slack to go and put my daily notes somewhere else because I
Hmm.
use a form and then it drops everything into
You
Google
could probably get
Sheets.
reminder plugin or something like that if you need that.
Yeah, maybe. So again, we're working on it and I'm debating on, what I put in the daily notes. Is it just a list? Is it just
And
thoughts? Things like
one
that.
thing you might also consider, I got you to download the journals plugin, which I think is still the best because it can allow you to control the multiple layers like that better. But there is periodic notes, which also
Hmm.
does the same amount per se. I think the calendar is better on the journals plugin, which is probably why I switched. But there's a lot of daily note plugins that are really helpful that just don't work yet with journals because journals is relatively new.
Really?
And they do work with the normal daily note plugin, which only does days, and the periodic notes, which does all of them, I think. And it's interesting to think about, like, if there's a couple daily note plugins that just don't work with journals for whatever reason, then you can go switch over to periodic notes, and you'll have to again change the file name trees in the settings to like where your notes are stored. But it is interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm still working on that. I think I'm gonna make sure I have everything updated. I'm going on a trip for work coming up, so I'm gonna be having Obsidian on my phone and do the sync and everything just to make sure because this is the first
Yeah.
time
Make
like
sure
being
it's all
away from
fixed
home.
before, yeah, before you go.
Yeah, but yeah, that's what I got. That's what's working out.
You haven't mentioned anything about 12-week year.
All right. So there's a couple things that I liked about it. Number one, a couple of different facts, and again, I'll be finishing up the book and my notes more, but basically, I like two things that they mentioned. One is peer review, so they have this WHAM thing, but I like the stat that peer support review allows you to 80% of people are more successful in peer support review.
Kind of like what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, they were
Yeah.
saying 2 to 3. I mean, I think two can work, but they were saying 3 to 4, just having the accountability. But they
Mm.
said overall, if you have a peer support group, you declare what you want to do in public or people know. They said that implementing all of these things, it's a 7x on what you do based on their study
Mm.
if you have those different things. So I thought that was really powerful. I've never heard those stats. I've always known it was powerful, but just having those kind of things of if you have a weekly peer review session about your goals, and also too they have a section of having a scorecard to show based on your goals for your 12 weeks how close are you, that really makes you have the catalyst. So just doing this weekend, like I have a goal because I want to have very specific things to happen.
Mm.
We talked about it, just more. financial freedom and more freedom to just travel. In a week, what did I do? So over the weekend, implemented this for the business operating expenses. So we went through the whole list, looked at what we were spending on subscriptions, all of these things. We dropped it by 41%.
That's strong. Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty interesting. And then personal finances, we found a glaring 44% of just charges that we could just cut out. So just things like that. If I didn't have the scorecard and I wasn't like being this like specific, I don't think, number one, the speed of implementation and then finding those things. So basically the 12-week or the 12-week year, every day is a week.
Yeah.
And every week is a month. So it allows you, if you're not doing something daily, it's like you just lost a week.
It's the same
yeah.
philosophy as the Blitz that I've been telling
Yeah.
you about for the last month, because I literally did, 13 posts in a day. And it's like, that is something I would do over the course of a week. And I've been trying to like do that every day, but I haven't. So like, I get really upset when I miss a day. I know there's some days I need to rest too. So I try to like, listen to my body, because this is the winter time and it's hard for me. But every day that I miss, I'm missing a whole sprint, a whole week of sprint.
I would, yeah, and that makes sense. I think the other thing that I found in the book that was because like sometimes I'm like, okay, well, I have to move really, really quickly to implement this or to check out this
Mhm.
tool. One of the biggest things that I like about this was you're only working at 2 to 3 goals for the whole 12 weeks. So it's less complicated things, but it's like where to go to the goals. Like for example, I was like, I'm going to go for 5K per month for YouTube. Okay. So if I'm like, oh, I need time to look at this AI agent. Yeah. But what are the key metrics to get to 5K? It's not testing these out. It's to outreach to these different brands or to do the different activities. So it really has helped me to be more aware of what I need to do for
We
YouTube
should
and go from there.
we should go into those goals, because I was trying to think about that when you were like, trying to active listen at the same time. But it made me think like, what are my 3 goals? And one of them is the content blitz, which in of itself is multiple sprints. So I kind of feel like the blitz is just one of those goals for this quarter, because I don't think I'm going to stop at the end of the January. I'm going to keep probably going a little bit, because there's still plenty of blog posts to go through. And the other goal is to move to Austin. Like, I want to do that the first quarter of this year. Like, I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't have enough money. I don't have much income, but I'm going to have to do it. And then the next goal, I was like, I don't know what the third goal would be, but I guess really that's to finish my How to Swim book, because I do want to get that out as soon as possible so I can start working on other books. I have a dozen ideas right there. I had this idea, me, like the eccentric content creator brain. I was like, can I make a book once a month, like one book every month for a year?
You would.
But see,
You
it's
would.
those thought experiments that help you go farther, though. Like,
Yeah.
I remember Roberto Blake making a live stream video that I was pretty attached to at one point. He's like, I'm going to make 3,000 pieces of content this year. Something like that. I think it was his point. I think he made it either the year before last or the year before last. But it was interesting because it's like, hey, now that you're making that decision, how do you do it? And that was kind of the same mentality I had with Gary Vee. We talked about this many times over the years, Doc, but he talks about the, make 100 pieces of content a day. Everyone kept hearing that, like, oh, I don't want to do that. And it's the way they reacted was kind of how you react when I say do 10 shorts a day. But like,
there's a reason for what I'm saying about that. You can keep
okay,
going, but there's
I'll finish
reason.
I'll finish and you tell me the reason again. But my point was, when I listened to Gary Vee, everyone else was like, ugh, I don't want to do it. I don't know how to do that. I can't do that. And I was like, how do I do that? And that's where the difference there is.
Yeah.
Remind me the reason that you're saying.
Yeah. So this goes back into okay. So a couple different things. After looking at, so there's a couple of things I'm going to be doing even with the 12-week one. And we kind of talked about this in passing, but for Patty Galloway, he was talking about trying to study or trying to be a student of YouTube for an hour a day. Then I went a little bit deeper into how do you look at YouTube? How can you be more successful? And one of the things that he mentioned in more of his explanation is start looking at trending, start looking at what is actually performing well. and how they're standing out. And one of the glaring things that I saw with shorts, yes, it's one of those. We talked about shotgun or sniper approach, but if you
Mm.
look at the trending ones, the biggest shorts are not, they're purposeful and they're a lot of work and there's a lot of effort with a lot of them. Now, it depends on the category and who you're going after.
Right.
All of those different things are factored. But after looking at all of the effort or intentionality with some of these clips, the ones that hold my attention, the ones that I'm like, yeah, I could do something like that, then I'm like, okay, if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to put this out, I'm not going to do all of that to this extent, but I want to take a systematic approach to making shorts like this. I I like them. I see why they're performing, and I see the gap between me and them. Now, that doesn't mean if I don't start anywhere, then you're just paralyzed and you're never
Yeah.
going to start. But there are clear things. I'm like, man, these are really good ideas. Let me implement a few of these things. And I think it's one of those factors of, are we going to use the time to, okay, using Opus, I think that's brilliant and getting the brand and all those clips. But the ones that are popping off, it's intentional and it takes a lot of time and
That's
effort.
how it is on all platforms, though. And while you're right about like the top ones are the ones that are more specified in SEO and perfectly edited and stuff like that, those are like the top 20, probably top 10% actually, more than likely. I come from the viewpoint though, I would rather still be top 65, top 75% and get that amount of boost. And I think that was a difference in mindset there. Was like, do you want to be the top 10 and have one out of 15 videos get popped off? Or do you want to have 12 of your videos get like, I don't know, 2,000 views each? And I was like, I think the 2,000 views each is probably more useful, even on a channel like yours, because it'll add up.
And we go back to, and I agree. All right, so we go for the views, and I again, we'll just uh, I'll take a look at it. I think my live streams have more impact than shorts, but again, we'll
Well,
see what
they're
happens.
I'm not saying they'd have more impact in the live streams. I'm talking purely from a shorts perspective, because the thing is, Doc, the reason why my channel is like 90% views coming from shorts is because I failed at posting enough solo content up until a couple months ago, and so my channel is still resettling now that I've been more consistent in scheduling things out. And so, like, yes, 90% of my views are still from shorts. But that's because what the algorithm has kind of pushed me towards, because I hadn't pushed. I don't do live streams for ones. I don't have that long form content like you do for that. Because yours is still more solo than interview based, right? And all
Yeah.
my long stuff is purely interview based. And I think that interviews, whether they're live or not, they have a different reaction to just long form short videos. That's how Dan Coe blew up. He had like 2 hour short form, not short, 2 hour solo videos, and that's how he blew up. And then he repurposed it. And then he did both sniper and shotgun. He did highly optimized shorts, but a whole crap ton of them.
Yeah.
So I don't know how he managed to do that, but he was hyper focused, I guess, because all his shorts are like completely animated and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, and the one thing is, especially looking at trends and looking at all these things, and that's, I think, the beauty of YouTube. There's no one way to do it. Every category is totally different. The format, like, even where it's like, oh, this will work for Mr. Beast, there's tons of categories on YouTube that, I mean, I'm discovering one. They have 2 million subscribers. I've never heard them in my life. And they have a different format that's for their audience or their niche. I think it's a blue ocean out there to just do what you want. I think it's more the methodology of consistency and approach than any kind of magic bullet.
And while Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube are all different, they are very similar. And so a lot of my philosophy, Doc, does come from a decade and a half of it, not a decade and a half, over half a decade of experience with short form videos, because I've been on TikTok for 7 years. And so I took those same learnings onto YouTube. I was also on Vine too back in the day, and I saw that blow up and then die. And so it's just interesting to think about, like, that's also why I have this philosophy. It's not just because of YouTube's perspective, but because I had the perspective from multiple platforms. I also want to mention, Doc, I didn't send this to you because I was already sending you too much stuff, and so I held off.
Hmm.
But I had ChatGPT interview me.
I saw it. I saw
Okay.
you. That was interesting. So you did it with just chat, and then you recorded the. How'd you record
Yeah.
it?
So I used Meld Studio.
That's cool. That's
Yeah.
cool.
And so it was interesting because essentially I was like, there's some questions I want to ask. And my roommate was couldn't figure out why I would do this. I'm like, well, I could make a video talk about those same topics, but how I articulate them would not be as good or concise as if I was in an interview. And so I had ChatGPT. I prompted it with some questions and asked me about my show, and it asked me about how I, interview my guests and what do I do to prepare. And the way it prompted me allowed me to answer in a more concise and effective manner. And then I just used Mail Studio to record my screen while I'm talking, and then just to make it more visually interesting, because the animation doesn't do much on ChatGPT, I dropped it into Video Bolt and created a visualization. I also edited it to cut out any extended pauses or weird prompts. I left in one part though where it's like, you have used up all your free time limits for the fancy voice, because I was like, oh, I might as well leave it in. And then I posted it to the podcast too, and I was like, this is really interesting. I think honestly, I don't know if this is just like ego, but I think I'm the first person to have AI interview me. I've seen people make AI podcasts with like Notebook LM, but not seen anybody get interviewed by AI.
Hey, you need to start looking at that.
Yeah.
Reach out to some reporters. Start talking about it.
Yeah. I don't know how to really do PR though, but I'll try.
You follow some people on Twitter, right? That
Yeah,
are
I think so.
writers. That's what usually I'll just reach out and say, "Hey, this is what I'm doing. Here's the story." Also, too, there's something in AppSumo for PR for that. But I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you.
It's interesting because I just thought like this would be a great way to make some podcasts. I almost thought about making a new podcast feed using that thing, but it's probably too expensive to really handle right now. And the fact that I used multiple tools too. Oh, I also used Adobe Podcast to enhance it as well. So I used a combination of modern creative tools like Video Bolt, Adobe Podcast, and ChatGPT, obviously, to make this unique piece of content. And I think that's kind of cool. And that's kind of the point of this channel, the show, our nerdiness.
Mm-hmm. So as we wrap up, last thoughts? Anything that you're thinking about?
Not necessarily, no. I am just trying to get back on track with a lot of my content. I'm almost finished with the podcast sprint, and I'm debating whether or not I should finish it at all because I think, I don't know, I probably should, but I just want to get it done. And then I find that the blog posts are making some progress. I need to keep making progress though. I want to at least get the first phase of blog posts done, which is like the first 60 or so. And then once I'm done with that, I'll be happy.
I think what I have been thinking about for the last week since you mentioned the book and then I started looking at it and then starting to implement it, I'm really trying to delineate what I feel strongly about and emotional about that I want to finish or do versus just pure benchmarks and KPIs to the goals. Because sometimes I feel very strongly about a type of content. I am going to start making it a point. If I can create it and edit it and put it out of what I want to express, sure. But if it's costing me more time, energy, or just where I could be making more money at this point, I'm putting it into a different bucket because I the goals of the channel. I see this quote a lot from Roberto Blake puts it out quite a bit. Like, would you want to have a certain amount of subscribers or a certain amount of money? And I can see why people would say one or the other. But at this point, there's a certain amount that I'm looking for that will then propel me to what I want to do creatively. And so I'm putting some of my creative endeavors aside to make
Mm-hmm.
financial decisions to make it more profitable for the channel to then fund that later on. So that's what I'm working on. It's still a work in progress, but yeah.
I do feel that because that's kind of why I still so focus on the content is that a dozen posts in this phase one are about my PIOS, and so I can't release a template until I have a blog post talking about that template. And so I figured like I want to
Wait,
have
wait,
that
wait. I'm going to push that back on that. Why?
because I'm gonna be making like this is a way for people to use that template. I want people to actually find the template, and so that blog post is the precursor to people finding that template.
You're proposing that they're finding it via SEO, finding it on your
Yeah,
blog?
that's usually how a lot of my traffic flows through. Oh, one other thing I was going to mention too is like you were talking about like cutting down expenses. I use Ghost Pro for my main website, and I use Digital Press for my second site, both of which I'm not happy with. Digital Press is there's some weird glitches happening, and it's really starting to irk me. And then the Ghost Pro is ungodly expensive. It's like $36 a month and like $300 something a year for just a simple website hosting with hardly any subscribers or anything like that. And then there's another tool called Magic Pages, and I think they actually have like a lifetime deal,
Hmm.
which is actually cheaper than my like Ghost plan I'm paying yearly for. And I also was like, well, then I could also combine both sites into one place, one platform, which would be nice too.
It's called
But
Magic Plan?
Magic Pages, I think.
Magic Pages. Interesting.
And so I was like, oh, maybe I should move there, but there is the cost of time and energy moving, and so I'm like, do I spend time doing that now and save some money, which is important, or do I just keep making content? I also don't know if my scheduled posts will transfer over very effectively either. So I was like kind of waiting until I got done with those scheduled posts. I don't know.
This is interesting. Lifetime plans limited to 10 per month? I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know what this means, but I'll look into this. Interesting.
Well, I just mentioned it for myself even, but it's like, yeah, it's decision making time right now, and it's hard. So,
Yeah.
any other last notes?
No, I think this is great. Can't wait until we progress and see what happens next week. I'm
Yeah.
off to Florida in a few hours, and we'll see what happens next week.
Cheers.